Good evening, televiewers. You're welcome to Prime Hour, the first edition for this week. We are going this evening to be looking at three key topics, if time permits. We're going to be looking at the situation of cooking gas in Cameroon. There is a shortage across major cities in Cameroon, with very sorry stories told by the population in Bamenda, in Kumba, in Boya, as well as in Douala and across Yaoundé. We're going to be getting a pulse on how the people are living the situation. And we also are going to be looking at the fight against corruption in Cameroon, asking whether the anti-corruption units have been able to tame the vice, and if not possible, why has it been so difficult for the anti-corruption units created by the President of the Republic to stamp out this vice so that Cameroonians can take full benefit of the resources made available to them by nature. We also, if time permits, are going to be looking at another topic which has to do with government dismissing over 1,000 ghost workers. How were they working, and why have they been working this long for them to be dismissed only now? But is it also a good move, and how effective that is going to be? We are looking at these three topics with our panelists who are in the house. Kedia, Malangfe, Robert is in the house with us. He is representing the CPDM party this evening. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening to you, sir. Good evening to my co-panelists. Good evening to all Cameroonians that have taken their time to sit in front of their TV screen to watch us today as we give our own views on how the nation should move with positive intention to nation building.
Okay. We're also in the company of Tata Kwawi Mbinglo. He is a lecturer and a travel consultant. We're glad to have you with us this evening.
It's my pleasure once more. I'm happy to be here this evening for us to brainstorm once more to see how we move our country forward. Good evening, fellow panelists.
We also in the company of Lucas Nji, key member of Cameroon Civil Society. We're glad to have you.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening, dear panelists. I want to send across greetings to the people of Menchum Division, Fungom Subdivision, and the people precisely in Isu Village. And I also want to say good evening to everyone in Boya and the people of my 16, most especially to congratulate them on their bravery with regards to how I think they are doing quite well to ensure that their economic activities are not dead, because it is only when you keep the activities online and have life in it, then you can survive.
We also are going to be having the participation from Hamburg of Paddy Asanga, militants of the Social Democratic Front. Good evening, Paddy, and welcome.
Good evening, Leo, your panelist. I want to say I want to send my salutations to Kedia, whom I have met before, to Tata Mbinglo, with whom we shared the panel the last time, and to Lucas Nji, who is a member of our house that we always have convivial exchanges. So I'm glad to be one of those participants, one of those voices in the diaspora who think that we should talk our things amongst ourselves as Cameroonian first and then Africans. So that is why I think that my major prime has given us a voice, and you people are listening worldwide. I'm very, very happy that each time you invite me here, I have my adversary, because if I'm only talking to people who believe in me, I'll be talking to myself and it will be considered a monologue. But since we are not monologuing on my major prime, I'm happy to be part of this crew. You're welcome, Mr. Liu.
Get in touch with Bakah Derrick, who is supposed to be participating from Bamenda. Good evening, Bakah. Are you there? Bakah Derrick is not there this evening. We hope he hooks up with us. I will start this report with Bo Elvis, who will paint a picture of what the situation looks like in Yaoundé.
capital of Cameroon, where we are concerned about the availability of cooking gas in homes in the nation's political capital. Since morning, we have been touring some quarters here in Yaoundé, around Mendon. We have been to Simbok, we have been to Obele, we have been to Biamasi, and the situation is the same. Cooking gas, domestic cooking gas, seems to be very scarce here in the nation's political capital. As you know, there are about 7 types of domestic gas, cooking gas that are used here in the nation's political capital. We have CPDM, we have Star Gas, we have Green Oil, Tradex, Oil Libya, and Afrigas. But based on observation, only Star Gas seems to be available. Of course, we have gone to some distribution centers, and what they are saying is that they don't have information about why the gas is not available, because as they are trying to call for the supply of stock, as far as this gas is concerned, the information they get from their suppliers is that gas is not available. Just be patient. The situation is going to be fixed. Or better still, those that are in charge of the supply do not pick their calls at all. And the situation has been going on for close to 2 or 3 weeks, and people are so affected because for the time that we've been moving around, we've seen people moving around on bikes, in taxis, trying to look for gas everywhere. Some have been looking for gas for as long as 1 week, others a few days, to no avail. And as you know, it is very difficult to exchange a bottle from another company with that. That is, for example, you cannot exchange SCTM with Star Gas, or you cannot exchange Green Oil with Tradex, and so on and so forth. So if you are using Star Gas, then you must come along with a Star Gas bottle to be able to have your Star Gas bottle being refilled. If you come with another bottle, the situation cannot be handled. We've discovered that in homes, women are affected. It is affecting their day-to-day activities, as they have to look for other alternatives to be able to prepare food for their children. And of course, most of them have gone back to the 3-stone fireside, which was used by our ancestors, and is also very popular in villages. The people are not happy, and I've tried to find out from government sources, I mean unofficial sources, because I think the government is still planning to do a kind of official information, official communication on the matter. I've been trying to talk to some government sources unofficially, and they are saying that the situation is going to be handled with time, probably this week, of course, which concerns the Ministry of Energy. The situation is going to be handled this week based on official information. At the level of the Ministry of Commerce, I think too that they are depending too on information from the Ministry of Energy to see what can be done for this situation to be handled. It is a critical situation which is affecting homes, and we are observing, we're monitoring to see how it evolves. This is Bo Elvis reporting for my Media Prime from the nation's political capital, Yaoundé.
Actually, I'm very disappointed. I don't know what to do because I've suffered. I've gone around since from Bonasgo to Tekasi up to here. I'm not able to get the gas, so I don't really know. At least the government have to look into this matter of gas and try to solve the problem. At least people are suffering because people cannot sit in the house without gas. You have children in the house without gas, how will you cook? And you have to take them to school very early in the morning, and you have to bed them before taking them to school. So at least they should try and solve this problem because people are really suffering. Because I've seen how people are suffering with gas bottles, they're unable to get gas. So it's really touching. It's really touching.
Mom, I see that you came to buy gas. So for how long have you been searching, and how is the situation like?
I've been searching for like 2 weeks, and there's no gas.
So how are you coping?
We keep using firewood and charcoal, and it's getting something off my head. We are not comfortable with it.
So what is your call to the government? What is what are you asking the government about the situation?
I want to ask them that what is happening with the gas. Are they the ones that blocked it, or what is really happening?
Something.
Please, they should release the gas from us because it's getting out of hand, and we really need it.
Okay, thank you, Bo Elvis, for that report from Yaoundé, the nation's political capital. Mr. Tata, the situation is not too good for The population not only of Yaoundé, we are living same in Douala, Bomenda, as well as Boya and other cities across the nation.
Yes, I think this situation, it's only going to take more than 2 weeks for it to be resolved. And this is the Cameroon, the typical Cameroon we know. Except you are a stranger to this country, if we are not suffering from gas shortages, it should be cooking gas, it should be filling station gas. If not, it should be petrol. We are always running short of resources in our country, whereas we have enough resources that can actually take care of the population. That's why I keep saying that the issue of good governance remains a big challenge to our government. The truth is, the Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of Energy, they should have parameters in place that should be able to dictate when such situations are upcoming. People should know that there will soon be a shortage of gas and switch to alternatives. We shouldn't always wait when things get out of hands. The government starts assuring people, give us time to solve this problem. These are very simple issues. If we have good governance, accountability, things like this will not come into play.
Okay. Kedia, Malangfe, you are also very comfortable with the situation. There is no clear cut information telling Cameroonians why we don't have cooking gas.
One is a sad situation to all Cameroonians, especially our women that are in the kitchen. You know, when the man come back from work, he will not want to understand, or maybe the kids coming back from school, they will not want to understand the situation, but they will just want to have their food on the table. But we should honestly understand that the production capacity of Cameroon is limited, and we do import. And if most of our viewers have been watching foreign news, they'll realize that it's a problem that is hawking in the entire world, especially in Europe and part of Africa. We know the situation of gas. If everyone is honest, we realize that even in France, there is ongoing strike around their petroleum industries with regards to shortage. I would not like to link it too much with the issue of Ukraine and Russia, but definitely I can't escape from it, because we all see that that's the impact. If you watch foreign TV news like CNN, BBC and the rest, it is being talked over about it, showing that it is really a serious issue. What I really want to tell our women watching us is that there's a switch to the various alternatives that we do have. We have the normal charcoal, we have the normal firewood 3-stone, and the other one which I see they usually burn is like sawdust, as it is commonly called. And I think there's a switch to this other alternative, and hoping that we'll have a final solution to this hardship that has come in this sector. And I would like to be frank and open to the various delegates of commerce in all our regions and divisions to do their job. If it happens that people do sell gas for 15,000, 10,000, then they are not doing their job. And I'm talking to them while frowning, because when they don't do their job, the common man will turn to my champion, President Paul Biya, to accuse him. Whereas they are there to do their job, and they are not collaborating with the forces. The next time I will happen to come on TV, I will not hide my emotion. I'll call the names of the various delegates and the various divisions that such malpractices are happening there, and they are not doing their job. I'm a CPDM communicator, and it should not be misinterpreted that if you are an official, you don't do your job, we will not come here and denounce you. Other people may even be scared to denounce you, but me of the ruling party, I'll call your name and everything. So you people should get to work to ensure that our people are not being exploited, while the Ministry of Energy is doing it possible best. One of the people interviewed, one of the people that talked to us in the short videos, explained to us that it will be in 2 weeks, but I definitely believe that it will be less than a week, and this situation will be handled.
Okay. G. Lucas, are you also, have you had persons complain about the situation in Mile 16 or in Boya and Do you understand why we don't have gas today, and the fact that others are using the situation, the shortage, to exploit Cameroonians? Because we are told that the gas bottle where they are found are actually sold at the price of 10,000 francs. In Kumba, yet 25,000.
Well, it was a few days ago when I learned of this. I thought maybe it was some particular companies, like maybe you would have thought it's the SCTM, but from the excerpt, it is very evidential that it has gone beyond a particular company. It happens to be across the board. My major worry is the aspect of data collection. This is when a particular body, once a body is failing, then you may not have this. You may want to ask yourself, who has the index of what quantity of gas Cameroonian do consume? Because these are things in the course of solving this problem, you take it from there. That, okay, within this year, this is the quantity of gas that the people will need. And when you are anticipating such as what we have on the ground, you have to put measures in place to curtail or maybe to contain it. And I think on the aspect of artificial scarcity declared, though we have shortages, we have artificial scarcity declared by some people, and they decided to come up with price hike with some of the different companies. I think it is all happening because we have an arm that is failing. The executive arm is failing woefully. And if the executive arm does not sit up, I want to talk about and draw attention on what happened in Pakistan. I think if we could recall, President Rajapaksa at a particular point in time, he never had it easy in his presidential palace because the people wanted gas. We saw how they queued up on the street. They needed gas to cater for their cars and to go about their activities, which was not there. So I want to believe that the issue of the country with its executive arm failing woefully not to understand the needs and the different quantities which its citizens would consume, it's becoming something else. And I keep saying this. This will easily happen to countries where the government thinks she is the boss, and she forgets about the philosopher kings and the boss, who are the citizens, who are the electorate, who are the persons who give them that mandate which they have. Under normal circumstances, we ought not to have had, maybe we should not be getting from some of the persons who reported in the excerpt that they have been told that in 2 weeks' time they are going to have this. We are talking about a government that understands that if we talk about global warming today, Cameroon is a member of the the Paris Climate Accord. Cameroon is a member to most of these international treaties signed to see that we take care of the ozone layer and to avoid the climate change which we are talking about. Okay. So it is very disappointing to see that we are very much involved in encouraging people to go and take to the 3 stone or to mount the charcoal pot and the rest. It's quite disappointing because the government in place should be the one championing it. It's rather unfortunate that Malangfe, coming from a particular political party where he talks about the ruling party, they are the ones championing us. They are the one managing some of this.
They are asking people in France to use charcoal pot. It is
okay.
not even in France. You just called a country where the citizens had to revindicate and when I met the president. Okay. Even in that country, it's happening there.
Okay.
So we should not make it a
Good evening, Mr. Leo. The topic is very timely. In Bamenda, there is no cooking gas. If you see a bottle, you are asked 15,000 francs CFA a bottle. It is terrible for a country like Cameroon with a refinery to be witnessing this type of situation. Let's move over to Bamenda, Northwest Regional Capital, where Akeba Charles is going to tell us how things look like out there. Can we have the report by Akeba Charles?
This October 16 finding, dealers in the cooking gas business in Bamenda told my Media Prime TV the problem is not suppliers.
So here I find them, but as I equally inquired for my own supplier.
And what they told me is that there is no gas at the depot in Bakah, no gas at the depot in Douala, and no gas even at the seaport because it is being imported. And when they do inquire, they say shipment is still to be done. So as of now, nobody can answer the question. Only the dealers, maybe the importers or the traders can tell us what is going on about the gas.
The issue of gas scarcity in Bamenda has led to an increase of price of cooking gas if you can find one.
It's really difficult for us, not only to afford the gas, which is really expensive, but just to get it is another issue. The whole of yesterday, going to the market just to see a bottle of gas was not really easy.
That they have the gas, they sell you a bottle of gas for 8,500. How are we going to survive? You carry a bottle of your gas and you go to Mbinglo, you go to Mobile, they will tell you this, but it's just within them. They keep on playing a fiasco game, and that is why you see.
Since food must be cooked, denizens result in using the stone fireside, charcoal pot, sawdust.
The price of gas is so high now, we are facing difficulties. So if you look, most of the population now are buying the charcoal pot to use it to prepare food. So concerning this gas issue, we would like the government to intervene and look the situation concerning the gas issue and even the price. The few people that have the gas bottle, that have increased their price, that have increased their prices. So that's all we can plead for the government to intervene into the issue.
If something is not done, the scarcity of cooking gas is just more salt to an injury to the common man, especially with the Anglophone crisis.
Okay, thank you very much, Akeba Charles, reporting there from Bamenda, Northwest Regional Capital. Let's now move over to Germany, in Hamburg, to get the first reaction of Paddy Asanga to what Cameroonians are living with respect to the shortage in cooking gas supply in Cameroon. Paddy?
Yes, Mr. Leo, this phenomenon of shortage of gas in Cameroon is due to bad governance, and I would say it as it is. You understand that every government governing is anticipation, and when you have good times, you have reserves. And the Jacobin government of Yaoundé has been always incompetent, and they have not prepared for situations like this. That's why our poor people can be exploited. I listened to something. If we were refining our crude oil and not sending it abroad, do you think that we'll have gas shortages? When you hear that there are heights in Europe, they tell you about 10 cents, 15 cents, and so on. But you will not listen to any European country tell you that gas has doubled from 5 euro to 10 euro. It doesn't work like that, because there are regulatory and preventive mechanisms. And that's why we have always contested this government. Now, I listened to my friend Kedia say that he's going to call people's name who are responsible for such situation. The first person who is responsible for that situation is Mr. Bia. He says that people should resort to charcoal and firewood and all sorts of things. Do you expect somebody who's living in Bunamusadi, somebody who's living in Kansi, to go and start lighting charcoal in that building, to go and start using firewood in that building? What is he talking about? You know, these are just people who come on TV and say things because they want to say it and because they want to exist politically. No, I think this situation is a situation that involves every household in Cameroon and every sphere of life. And these are some of the things that should let Cameroonians revolt against this government. Come out against this government and tell them that they should pack out. Because we are a people, and if they say they have our mandate, then they should be able to understand that at certain points, there could be floods, there could be gas shortages, there could be petrol shortages, and so on and so forth. So this is a situation that we are witnessing here in Europe. But the magnitude is not the same because we have an incompetent government that does nothing and just sits and send people like Kedia to come and talk and say, do personality card, my champion, my champion, my champion. If he's in a champion, go and look for cars and give to all those people and stop saying that you are going to call other people. He's the first person who is responsible for that, Kedia. So, the situation, and if we want to talk about looking for solutions, we should anticipate. In good days, we should have gas reserves, like it happens in any other country with good governance, where people anticipate and know that there will be moments like this where there will be gas shortages, and then we have to ration. Not telling people to start buying gas from 10,000 from 5,000 to 10,000. No, you say, okay, because of that, maybe because of extra measures, extra transportation, extra logistics, 5,500. The people will understand, and you can explain that to them. But to listen to what Kedia just said here, it's very annoying. And these are some of the people who come on television stations and want to push people to go and revolt. And I think that if the Cameroonians come out collectively to revolt against this government that can anticipate, it will be a good thing. And I will be part of that revolt. Thank you.
We are not, at My Media Prime, we are not calling for any revolt in Cameroon. We are told that Bakah Derrick from Bamenda is online. Good evening, Bakah, Derrick, and welcome to Prime. Your first reaction to what Cameroonians are living with respect to the cooking gas shortage.
Thank you very much, Kum, and to everyone who is joining us this day. We are happy to be with you, and our pious hope is that for the next few minutes of our conversations, we're going to be learning a couple of issues. You know, we are at the end of another day with very low resumption of economic activity, and you know that our city is one that sometimes you cannot predict what happens next. You know, today we've had low resumption of economic activity, and you could not measure whether things have changed. But as of yesterday, you know, we're informed that not only was gas not available, but also was it very expensive if seen. Some people have been quick enough to already point hands as economic or the business people for trying to create what the economists call artificial scarcity. But we are not settling on that yet. But with the issue now seeming to be nationwide, they could have a reason, you know, the economic operators or the business people that we have in town could now have a reason to say that, well, there is no gas supply. However, with the rising inflation that we have in the country right now, it seems to be almost everywhere. There is an inflation of almost everything. It would have been embarrassing if such a situation did not come up and if we did not have anything looking like a possible increase in gas prices. I will not want to move away from the fact that it is an intentional or an artificial scarcity created at the highest level to ensure that when gas finally returns to the market, there will definitely be an increase in the prices. You know that the inflation that we have is well above 30%. If you go by the basic commodities that we have, well, we have not had official sources say that, but at least if you were following the developments around our markets, in a bank-dependent economy like ours, you will be assured that our inflation rate is very high, and you will not expect anything different for basic requirements like cooking gas. So I feel that it is something that we had anticipated, but then it came at a time very few people were prepared for it. I'm talking about the basic users, and at the time the economy is not also friendly here. Kum, do not also forget that we're living in an armed conflict environment, and in this environment, economic activities are really very low. Sources of income have actually been reduced to the barest minimum, and people are practically just surviving. Someone told me, I actually overheard some people in a conversation, and someone asked at Saturday evening was already indicating that that cooking gas was already slightly above, I think 12,000. And now I can hear from other sources already indicating that it's already getting to about 15, if seen at all. Like Akeba indicated, you will not have the luxury of even seeing it. especially with the major dealers in the city centers. There are some people in the rural areas who are just fortunate to have gas as we speak to you because they had already stocked and the market there is a little slow. So for a few people who use cooking gas, they would obviously have access to it. But in the urban areas where the demand is very high, trust me, it is becoming a serious issue that needs to be looked at with immediate effect. Thank you very much for having me this evening.
Bakah Derrick coming in there from Bamenda, Northwest Regional Capital. Greetings, Mr. Liu. These price hikes are done intentionally. It's just artificial scarcity. It paints the picture of a failing government. I wonder how gas will just get finished without any signals. It's not only gas, Mr. Liu. Sugar, soap, and cooking oil have also witnessed hikes. Let the government do something, please, okay? Good evening, Mr. Liu. It's normal with our government if it was first gas and petrol, later groundnut oil, and now it's cooking gas. Who know what is next? Is Martin writing from Boya. Dear Mr. Liu, please accept greetings from Fiango. I'm glad that Mr. Paddy Asanga is participating from Hamburg. I am sure there can't be shortage of gas or any basic commodity in Dutchland. To me, this shortage is artificial. Artificial in the sense that since service providers want to step up the price of gas, it should be noted that the price of every other commodity is on the rise. What exactly is pushing the prices of commodities up without a commensurate in wages and salaries? Soon too, the price of national ID card will rise. Back to gas. Yesterday, a retailer here in Kumba told me that Russia has stopped supplying gas to Cameroon. However, it's time we think of alternatives turning to biogas or solar energy. I believe we have the brains. Mr. Liu, I'm not also part of any revolution against this government. The experience on ground zero isn't good. St. Albert the Great, writing from Kumba. Good evening to you, St. Albert the Great. Good evening, Mr. Kum. At times, I'm really wondering whether this is the country that is said will emerge by 2035. We want to emerge by going back to three-stone fireside. What a shame. Mbeng Amos is writing from Mbinglo. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Nice program. No gas and kerosene in Kumba. Same thing is happening in France, USA, and in Nigeria. It is a worldwide thing, okay? Yes. The issue is, if it is a worldwide issue as reported by some persons, why is the government not putting out a clear communication to situate the population on what the stakes are?
This is exactly what I was talking about, that government should have a mechanism, price control mechanism, as well as indicators when people are to face price hikes in basic commodities. They should be pre-warned before time so they prepare and aware that there's going to be a shortage in gas, in cooking gas, so they can also resort to alternatives as you suggested. But what keeps me worried is the fact that our government likes to compete with other governments when it comes to negative things. When it concerns shortages, you know, hardship, yes, we compare to other countries, but when those countries are progressing in other aspects, we don't compete with them. If you can answer this, my fellow brother, I'll be very happy, since you are representing your champion and the CPDM political party. Why should we only compete with other countries when things are getting bad? When they are progressing, why don't we find ourselves in the front line?
Okay, but I'm the one doing
sorry.
the question.
Sorry.
Yes. Okay. Are you ended?
Yes.
Okay. Let's take these reports, two reports from Dolingonde, situating us on what the situation looks like in Douala, and also the report from Kong Samba to also understand what the people of the Mungo division are going through.
After the Southwest, Center, Northwest and West regions, the Mungo division of the Littoral region is now dancing in the rhythm of gas shortage. Housewives are in great difficulty. For the moment, the usage of firewood and charcoal seems to be the only way. Dozens of people can be seen making rounds at the different gas distribution agencies in vain. The man who runs this store is in shortage of gas. He usually refills our bottles when there is no gas, but today it is worse. There is no gas anywhere in Konsamba. We don't know what to do. We first went to the gas station to look for Ola gas to no avail. We came back to this vendor. He too does not have, and it is really a problem. Yesterday I went to town and there was no gas. I then came back and was obliged to light up my charcoal pot. The shortage of cooking gas happening in the middle of an academic term is not making the job easy for mothers in particular. This morning, my son could not go to school with snacks because I was unable to prepare anything without gas. Where I am now, nothing is moving. When we wake up in the morning to make breakfast, one needs gas to do this faster so that the kids will go to school. Charcoal is not as fast as gas. Faced with this problem, which has become a nationwide crisis, consumers say all their hopes are on the competent authorities. I don't understand what is happening. The government needs to see into the situation because the lack of gas disrupts the functioning of households. As a reminder, gas scarcity has been persistent for over a week now in different regions of the country. Despite the exaggerated price rate, the quantity supplied is insufficient in relation to the demand. For 1 week now, there has been no gas. At the moment, only green oil is available. We are stuck because we cannot sell just a particular bottle and lack empty bottles to go and refill. I propose that they should make it possible to interchange all the various types of bottles if it can solve this problem. Pending a return to normalcy, households can only resort to firewood and charcoal as an alternative solution. This is the umpteenth problem of price hikes Cameroon has faced in under 1 year.
From the households to wholesale units and even at filling stations, the cry is consistent. There is scarcity in the supply of cooking gas in the economic capital of Cameroon, like in most parts of the country. A situation which has led many residents parading the streets with empty gas cylinders, moving from place to place in search of cooking gas. Daniel Richie is a stand-up comedian who now shares his experience of the shortage.
Yeah, I'm actually looking for the MRS gas. Unfortunately, I came here 2 days ago, they told me there was gas. Today I'm here and there's no gas. So there's really shortage and I don't know how to go about it. I don't know what to do right now. It's crazy. I think it's really something that the government needs to look into because gas is like the most important thing. Without gas, you cannot cook, even though I don't cook with the fireside. Gas is really important. So if the gas is 25,000, 15,000, it's really crazy.
But how has Richie been coping given the limited supply in days?
Sometimes I had to boil beans. I used the candle to boil beans. It took almost 3 days. You can imagine. So it's crazy. Yeah.
With no success, Richie continues his search. Meantime, the scarcity has had many resorting to other cooking methods, particularly traditional. Meanwhile, some women have attested their husbands prefer food which is cooked on the 3-stone fireplace. The situation is quite deplorable, as many have been forced to track recall the earlier months, which saw water being poured out of gas bottles due to dubiosity. However, according to this gas dealer, the shortage is caused by the delay in supply by the ship transporting the cooking gas into the country.
Le bateau n'a pas accosté à temps.
Meantime, most consumers are hoping that the situation gets addressed soonest. With the price of gas now ranging from 7,000 francs to 25,000 francs in some parts of the country, it is feared some suppliers are undoubtedly beginning to take advantage of the scarcity, and if government doesn't react soonest, many fear the outcome in the future.
Not only increase in price of cooking gas, but scarcity of gas in Bamenda.
Okay, thank you very much, Dolly Ngonde, for the report to tell us the situation in Douala, as well as that from Konsamba, chief town of the Mungo Division, littoral region of Cameroon. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Gas in Bamenda is 15,000 francs. Is a bad situation. Sugar that was brought to Bamenda was carried back to Douala for sale, making the prices to rise. This is from Elvis Paul, writing from Bamenda. It's not a worldwide issue. It's a downfall of a failed government. Ari Andrew Agbo, writing from Kumba. Good evening, Mr. Leo. This gas issue is really traumatizing because even the price of firewood here in Bamenda is worse than that of the gas. Charcoal is also getting scarce. Let's go into prayers for this nation. Melissa is writing from Bamenda. Hi, Mr. Leo. Good evening to you all there. Mr. Leo, I bought gas for 15,000 here in Bamenda yesterday. God help us. Akaya Godwin is writing from Bamenda. So many persons are buying for 15,000. Good evening, Mr. Leo. It is terrible for us to have artificial scarcity of gas as well as price hike on other commodities apart from cocoa and coffee that we have as the main cash crops. The kilo of cocoa now supposed to be at least 2,000 francs, but is still 900 francs or 1,000 francs. For the past 3 years, the most difficult situation is that the salaries remain same despite the price hike. I am Jean-Pierre in Bolova. Good evening to you, Jean-Pierre. We are going to be moving straight to our second topic, which has to do with the anti-corruption fight in Cameroon. We are asking the question whether the anti-corruption units have failed to stop the vice in the country. Kedia, Malangfe, do you have the impression that Cameroonians are very comfortable with the corruption and embezzlement situation in Cameroon because of the existence of this anti-corruption units?
You see, corruption in Cameroon is one of the main aspects that is drawing us back in this country. And my champion, President Paul Biya, has put in place institutions to ensure that the fight against corruption. And one of the major institutions he put in place is the CONAC, to be able to look at the aspect of corruption at the level of the government, at the level of the parliament, at the level of the private sector, on how the Cameroonian money that belongs to the state should not be siphoned and kept in private pockets. And this institution has evolved, and when you look at their annual statistics, you look at the number of people that have gone to prison, you look at the number of amount of money that have been recovered, you say the institution is doing at best. But we are in a republic and in a democratic country where we want this institution to do much better than it is doing now. So we are supposed to collaborate with this institution to be able to denounce when we see such actions that are taking place. Like, for instance, from our first topic we were talking about, the government of the Republic of Cameroon has not increased the price of gas. The price of gas has not been changed. Anyone that is buying gas more than 6,500, knowing that is the real price, and you go and buy for 15,000, you are collaborating. You are not participating in denouncing. When I want to talk, one of my panelists will say, what I say is to push people to go to the street. Pushing people to go to the street, or pushing people to be able to come out as a team to say, prices remain 6,500, we will not buy for 15,000. It's a self-determination. It's the aspect of self-moral building to be able to denounce when you meet such aspect. Now, talking about CONAC. CONAC is an institution. And like every other institution, they function based on information that they receive. If you see an act of corruption and you laugh over it, that's how Cameroon is. And you don't react as a person to give information, CONAC will definitely not be able to function, because they work based on information and report and complaint that they have from people. So, so far I will rate CONAC at about 51% with the job they are doing, and I in person, I'll expect them to be at 90, and why not 99? Because I know the problem of corruption. I know the problem of corruption. We see it everywhere. Very soon my co-panelists will say I should not do comparative politics, but some of us that we studied political sciences will believe that to be able to ameliorate yourself, to be able to progress, you need to do comparative politics with others so that you can go ahead. So the level of corruption is a cankerworm, is everywhere on earth, and so the Cameroonian government that in the late 90s was classified among the most corrupt African country is now progressing and is no longer in the bottom. So we are saying that is progressing. No, we know. Whose statistics, please, sir? Where did you get your own statistics? Which institution?
No, it's okay.
It's not about institution. We have the United Nations, we have organs that they give statistics about the most corrupt country.
Yes, yes. Your perception of how Cameroonians see corruption in Cameroon since the advent of Konak and NIF and a host of others.
Corruption in Cameroon, I want to speak on its origin, not like the time I knew about it. That is basically its origin. Mr. Kum, I think it is worth mentioning that everybody in Cameroon is responsible to bring certain things to order. But we have persons that we have given the charge to manage these things. The electorate has given the government in power that particular mandate to manage these things. And I want to say that corruption in Cameroon, before the creation of the Special Criminal Court on the 14th in 2011, that's 14 December 2011, the major cause of corruption in Cameroon is the failure of the #1 person in the Republic, Paul Biya, who has never told Cameroonian what he has from the day the 1996 Constitution came into being, where everybody is expected to declare their assets under normal circumstances, which is quite unfortunate that we have been living in abnormal circumstances. He has never in his life declared his asset. And one of the key instruments to monitor corruption within a nation before looking at external institutions and their ratings of corrupt countries and the most corrupt countries is that I should be able to tell the people that this is what I have. And after my tenure, the first, meaning before every presidential election, Biya is expected to tell Cameroonians that before this I had this, and right now this is what I have. But he hasn't done it. He hasn't done it. And we saw the case in 2008, where he himself came out and was asking, where is the proof of the people you are saying they are misappropriating or mismanaging the country?
When was that?
That was in 2008, I think. When he came out
and... It was way before that, yeah.
You understand? Now, when you follow all of this, you understand that these are persons who have decided not to do the right thing at the right time. And here we are today, we are talking about corruption. Cameroon is ranked about 160 in the Transparency International rating.
How many countries do we have?
You understand? You have about 180 countries in that index, and Cameroon stands about 160 in that index. And here we are.
Which index? Call the name
and
of the
here
index.
We are.
You should not give fake news.
Transparency International.
Which index? Which institution?
And here we are. We want to celebrate this. And I want to let Malangfe understand that when they are following this, there are several things they consider. Persons who declare what they have before now, how the government manages it, how open is the government, the number of business persons that will tell you about who comes up to them for what, the amount of money people pay which are not following the regular channels, and so on and so forth. I don't want to mention some of our checkpoints which have become what I call the new age bank or new toll gates in the name of checkpoints, where most of these things, because it is part of what the data process collection, where these are the things that they follow to understand how a country is.
And here we are in Cameroon, we are celebrating. And I want to let Malangfe understand that in the recent report that IMF did put up within the COVID gate, it is part of what they use to understand how corrupt a country is. And here we are celebrating corruption to the extent where we want to believe that the president is very okay with institutions you are enlisting. Institutions that are like what we call toothless bulldogs. And you expect that these institutions should solve these problems. Even the special criminal court pay allegiance as pay what it is, who is the head of the judiciary, because we do not have separation of power. They cannot indict. They cannot send somebody to jail when he consumes. People like Bazi and Taranakuna who went to jail for corruption, just as the law would permit, and we have him back on the street, who have embezzled money. And this is where Transparency International and other institutions are quick to say that most of those who are in jail, such as Ephraim Enoni, Marafa Hamidu Yaya, and a host of others, are political prisoners, not prisoners because they did embezzle. And we want to take these things and expect that Cameroonians should take it lightly. When we see how ordinary cooking gas, for those who do not know, it is linked to the amount of corruption that we have. Who knows what exactly comes from Sonara? Are you aware, Malangfe, that for the fact that Cameroonians do not know what comes from Sonara, it is corruption? As per the index, as per the data, are you aware of that? When last did Cameroonians get to know exactly how much comes from Sonara? When last did we get to know how much SDP or the Société Dépôt de Kwakokokwa has exactly in place? These are all the institutions that would tell the data collection tools to understand exactly how corrupt a country is. And we should not be very quick to defend wrongs. We want to fix this country. Our focus is to fix the country. So when you hear us citing these things, it is because it is damaging. And I want Malangfe to understand further, since he's the communication officer of the RDPC party or the CPDM party, it is worth taking this home that the report from IMF and the World Bank, it is very damaging, because though they are Bretton Woods institutions that equally come around to swallow up what you have, for them to think about giving you more, they need to first of all understand how you manage that which was given to you.
Yes, but we have just gotten a clearance for more money to be given to Cameroon.
Yes. You understand?
Which means that they are monitoring, they are assuming that we are using the money.
But we have not changed from being the 160 position.
No. Yes. Before we get to Paddy, Asanga, and coming. Yeah.
All right. I think listening to what my fellow colleague here
Robert Malangfe.
Robert just said, I am not very disappointed, because the party he represents, that is how they are groomed, not to speak the truth.
I said there is corruption. What do you want me to say? Did I say there is no corruption in Cameroon?
You talked about CONAC being responsible for a handful of ministers who are behind bars.
For sure.
That's a big lie.
Which institution?
The National Audit Body of the country is responsible for financial issues that are related to arrest, not CONAC. CONAC is out for corruption. Corruption here is bribing state institutions, bribing officials. For example, when you go to Enam, the case of Enam, that's a typical example where corruption is well manufactured in Cameroon. I can attest to you that more than 70% of those who find their way into Enam is through corruption. But CONAC has never presented one case from Enam, one corruption case. You can disprove me from Enam. But
Marafa, Hamidu Yaya and the rest, their case was investigated by the audit or by CONAC.
My fellow brother, that was the audit. The plane that was bought for beer or whatsoever, that was from the audit committee, not CONAC. That's not a corruption case. That's a case of embezzlement. State ministers who are there in Konenge, they are there for embezzlement, not corruption. You are mixing up. Corruption is going to bribe an official to get a service that you do not deserve it. That's what we call corruption. But if somebody mismanages money and is arrested, that is embezzlement.
Mismanagement is not embezzlement.
Those are two
mismanagement.
Just make a point. Just make a point. Yes.
My point is clear. Please, institutions that were being put in place by the head of state to fight corruption are not productive at all. We have reports yearly, but we do not have cases from CONAC, peculiar cases on corruption from Konak? If you have some, please just give us 2. We don't have such statistics. So they are just playing gymnastics.
I'll give you when I'll be given the chance to talk.
All right. So my point is clear, Mr. Leo. Those institutions are just there. They are a window dressing institution just to please Cameroonians for us to know that they are existing. But in terms of output, there's nothing we are having from Konak in terms of results.
Okay, Paddy Asanga, once again, I would want you to come in. Do you have the impression that those governing us or those charged with the responsibility of managing state resources are afraid, are they scared because of the existence of these anti-corruption units?
Mr. Leo and your co-panelists, I have been listening to the debate. It's rather that term from the backstage.
Paddy, please, can you mute can you mute?
Yes, I don't have anything running in the background.
Okay, just go on.
And as I was saying, Mr. Leo, I have listened to your brilliant panelists, people who I know, people who I respect. They have said, yes, sir.
Go on, Paddy.
It's not with me.
Yeah, just come on. Go on.
It's not with me, Leo. I have no running apparatus.
Just go on.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, clearly. 5 on 5.
Hello.
Go on, Paddy.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
So, I listened to your brilliant panelists, and they spoke about they were trying to circumnavigate between corruption, mismanagement, and embezzlement. Let's be clear. The DNA of Mr. Biya's government uses mismanagement, embezzlement, and corruption as a political tool to stay in power. And he who plays the game of Mr. Biya would go scot-free. Let's say that, because when you look at the different cases of those people who are in Kondengi, they have from they were intellectually indicted for assisting in an investment fund. When you go and look at Fonjindam's case, it is very different. Then you have people like Atanakuna who have come out to say that they embezzle, but they want to pay the money that they embezzle to be free. Then they say they have paid the money to be embezzled to be free. Where do you find them? It is a political tool that has been used by Mr. Biya's government, and the first corrupt person is Mr. Biya, who put that system in place. He is the accountant of what is happening. Yep. You will never separate corruption, embezzlement, and mismanagement.
Yes,
in the Cameroon.
Yeah, but Paddy, we are talking about the institutions. We are not talking about individuals here. You are indexing
institutions to the institutions, Leo. And who put in place the institutions? Some of those institutions are per decree. Why do you not want me to say that, Leo? Why? Those institutions were decreed. They were decreed by somebody, because those institutions are his political tools. When you talk about Konak, Konak is a political tool. Consupe, Conseil Supérieur d'État, political tool. Tribunal Spécial Criminel, political tool. NIF, political tool. Article 67, that says that people who get elected mandate, who should preach by example. Mr. Biya, the first person, he's not able to declare anything because he knows that he is not Dangote. How can you expect a president to say that I have given le don, I've given gift? Where do you get the money from? You cannot make gifts to taxpayers' monies. That's where it starts from. And the Chinese have told you that the fish starts getting rotten from the head. So that's where we find ourselves, Mr. Leo. So these institutions are useless because they don't have any executive power. What can CONAC do after its finding? What can NIF do after its finding? Who can be convoked to the Special Criminal Court without the signature of Mr. Bia? Who? Tell me. Mr. Leo, let's be honest. So this is the situation where we find ourselves, and that's why I said, please, if you don't mind, invite me on this platform. And when Kedia comes and say, my champion, my champion, my champion, he is the head of the fish that is rotten. It's not Paddy who's saying. So that's where we are, Leo. Let me leave it for now. I'm listening to you.
Yeah, but my question to you initially was whether those charged with the responsibility of managing state resources are scared of the existence of these anti-corruption institutions. That was my question. Do you have the impression that the directors, the principals, and everybody is scared to touch what is giving them to manage their respective offices because ANIF exists, because CONAC exists?
Leo, listen. If the person who's at the head of the office doesn't respect his own laws that he planted with an abuse majority, don't expect those people who are at the bottom to follow suit. It doesn't work like that.
Okay.
It doesn't work like that.
Okay, you've made your point.
Had it been Mr. Bia, who is the president, the de facto president that I'm contesting from time immemorial since 1992, had started by auditing himself, declaring his assets, I don't think any policeman will stand on the road and tell you, Aledi, or go and do what you want to do, or a principal and so on. So if he doesn't respect his own institution, why do you think that a principal who is sitting at Pompuka will be afraid of CONAC, will be afraid of Consupe, will be afraid of NIF, will be afraid of Criminal Special? They will embezzle milliards or billions, and then they come back and say, okay, I have repented, and then they use them as an example because they want to get, they want to hold it as a political tool. It is all these institutions are political tools, and you want to understand why all administrators, teachers, civil servants, they have become militants of the state party with their champion, who is Mr. Bia.
Okay.
That's what we are saying.
Thank you very much, Paddy. Thank you. Thank you, Paddy. Paddy is just evoking a question I had for you. Bakah Derrick in Bomenda are some civil servants using the CPDM cap to not respect their champion in this fight against corruption, because we know that these institutions were created by the President of the Republic with the intention of stamping out this vice that is eating very deep into the fabric of our society. And we also know that instructions were given by the same president. No, not for you. To Bakah Derrick, please. The question is for Bakah Derrick. Hello, Bakah?
Paddy really fired up. Paddy looks really fired up on this conversation, and I
just
think
come in, Bakah Derrick.
Very necessary. Yes, I'm indicating that Paddy looks really fired up on this conversation, which I think is very absolute.
Okay.
On a country that actually aspires getting close to growth, as far as I am concerned, this actually forms a core value in the development of every country. I mean, the conversation of mismanagement of state resources.
Bakah, it appears your camera is off. Can you turn it on?
I think it's on, right?
We can't see you.
It's not on, bro.
It's not on. Can you put it on? We can get your audio, but not the video.
All right, I think, but not a bad idea though. I was trying to make the point that Paddy actually sounds really fired up on this conversation because I understand him as a member of the opposition with his party actually pushing on the agenda for something different when it comes to management of
Derrick,
corruption.
Derrick, your video.
Honestly,
Derrick, your video is still off.
It's on. It's on.
Oops, we can't see you.
My camera is on.
The audio is on, but we can't see you from.
Yeah, your audio is on, but your camera is not on. I cannot see you, even from back office.
Okay, you are on now. Go on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you're on.
Maybe. All right. Thank you very much. I think it's. Thank you very much. Thank you, Leo. Sorry, it's a challenge of the moment. Sometimes we can find ourselves in these circumstances when we have these poor networks. Sometimes, I mean, I was indicating that Paddy actually sounds fired up on this conversation for obvious reasons. I mean, he identifies with a political party that has another opinion compared to what the state is doing, the Cameroon government. But my preoccupation sometimes on this conversation is why you want to keep out the President of the Republic from the intentional effort to fight corruption. Personally, I really think that he holds a very important role in this battle if we must look at it from a holistic perspective. And if he does, because I know where the laws that fight this canker emerge from, it emerges from Parliament, and we know how largely the ruling party and the President of the Republic in the enactment of some of these laws or the proposals for some of these laws. Personally, I think, and I told you, I think before now, that I'm of the opinion that the Cameroon press has actually been kept out completely from the corruption, the anti-corruption battle in this country. The anti-corruption battle in this country is such that it requires plenty of denunciation. And I think the person that has that responsibility is actually the press. The press has a duty to hold people accountable, hold people to transparency, and try to confront those who find themselves in mischievous tendencies or mismanagement of public resources to account. And as you will agree with me, there is not ample infrastructure, both in terms of legislation and other things that actually permit for such possibilities. You can already attest. Let me take you back just very quickly, Leonard, on two major instances. You remember, first from the global perspective, I think that will be the third. From a global perspective, we are not new to the Panama Papers. It was the duty of the press that actually identified when the documents for Massac were leaked. It was the German newspaper that actually picked up that story. And eventually we are where we are, and we're told that well over 1.2 billion US dollars has been recovered from both from lots of people who are connected to the Panama Papers, including countries like the UK and the New Zealand, Belgium, and a couple of other countries. Now, we also still remember in 2018, the instance in South Africa when Jacob Zuma was forced to resign. Don't forget of the Nkanda report that we all had. These were efforts of the media that actually got to where we ended up with Jacob Zuma resigning. These are efforts of the press because of instances of corruption and clientelism that had gotten to the Republic of South Africa to the very high level. It's not only amongst us. Remember in Bulgaria in 2019, we also had instances of reports of, we had the resignation of the chairperson of the anti-corruption agency himself, who eventually had to resign in 2019. We had the Minister of Justice, we had vice ministers, we had members of parliament who eventually resigned because of the media report that ended on matters that had to do with the press involvement in the fight against corruption. In effect, what I'm saying is that whether it is a principal, whether it is a state functionary, as soon as such a state functionary doesn't find his or herself answerable to the press, that the press can hold him responsible or provide required information at instances of the slightest suspicion of corruption, such people do not find any reason to be accountable, even to the people who appointed them, including the President of the Republic. So to say the least, whether it is the President of the Republic who has the intention of fighting corruption by creating such institutions and doing every right thing in place, was the media that is supposed to act as a catalyst for investigations by the competent authorities, including the Supreme State Audit and a couple of others, there is virtually nothing that will happen in the corruption battle because most of them are appointed to the same person, they are answerable to the same person, and unfortunately, they will eventually find themselves in the same political setup where everyone is bound to protect each other. This is exactly where it is and Cameroonians are bound to suffer the way they do as a result of corruption. Let's hope that time will permit for us to make proposals on the way forward. But I think that the only instance where I have seen the media involved in the fight against corruption in Cameroon is when the people charged with the fight are seen to be presenting annual reports of their efforts in the fight against corruption. That's the only level. But are there institutional intentions manifested through documentation intended to accompany the press, accompany the government in fighting corruption? Definitely there is a no. Do we have instances where media owners are regulated enough to be able to allow trained journalists do their work of investigation appropriately? Kum, I tell you that this is a difficulty that we have, and it must be addressed now, as soon as possible, if truly we want to fight corruption in its recent.
Derrick, Mr. Tata, I will get now to you. How do we get these institutions effectively fight corruption, or to some extent scare and deter persons who have responsibility to manage the resources of the nation?
Yes, I think it's a very important question you just asked. The fact that most of these officials are being appointed, it makes them answerable to someone who definitely will dictate to them how to work and how to get results. So whatever these institutions are doing on ground, the end result will be what the master wants, which to me, it should just be completely independent. It should be out of state control, but accountable to the people and not to the government. Because it's like having a state audit who belongs to the government, someone cooking the pot of soup who has to audit the same pot of soup, he is part of it. So I think they should be kept independently. The people could elect an individual to head CONAC who has the powers even to summon the head of state in case of any accusation or corruption.
Yeah, like we have the case in Brazil.
We have.
Like in
the president on seat someone.
When you are accused, the
president on seat,
it happens.
Is in no country.
Only in CPDM, only in the CPDM, within the CPDM.
How can people say this?
Please.
It is very.
Which country
normal.
that a president on seat?
Very normal.
Please,
Boris Johnson was summoned.
President on seat.
Was summoned. In South Africa, he was summoned in front of Parliament more than 4 times and questioned.
It's after.
Not after. He was still a sitting president. It's only in Cameroon that CPDM, once it is CPDM, the president is a king. He is not answerable to anyone. That is the mentality killing Cameroonians.
Please, can you just make your point?
Yes, my point is simple, as I made it earlier. These institutions should be independent. Once they are appointed by a particular individual, they remain answerable to him. So whatever their results are will be the outcome of what their appointee wants from them.
Okay. How do we get these institutions scary enough for persons to always think twice when they, for example, the principal would easily ask for parents to pay 50,000 francs to have a place in the school? Should it not also start with the population denouncing this?
Before I go ahead, I want to clarify what my co-panelists have been saying.
Okay.
I stand clear that there is corruption in Cameroon. Even the President of the Republic always recognized that there is corruption in Cameroon, and it is a cankerworm which we need to send it out. So I should not be misquoted as saying that there is no corruption in Cameroon. But I'm just saying that the picture that is being presented is not actually what is there. That's my first, my clarification. Talking now about the institutions themselves. For me, the first aspect, which the only thing I can talk about this institution is that they should be given the powers to sue immediately, to take the issue to court. That one, I'll be very honest to talk about it, that's what is supposed to be done. But where the problem lies is the moral value of the people that are being appointed. I always make this example. Goodluck Jonathan Ebere appointed the chairman of INEC. The chairman of INEC, with his good morality made the election in Nigeria and Goodluck Jonathan lose. Being appointed does not mean you function with the wings and caprices of the person that appoints you. We have people with morality in Cameroon that they say things the way they are. So firstly, our people are supposed to have that moral value when you are appointed. Secondly,
not within the ranks of the CPDM for sure.
Secondly, we're not within
the ranks of the CPDM party.
That's the issue we have in this country, Mr.
But that is the truth.
Many people will say that. Let me come.
Just allow him.
Many people will say that there is COVID gate. They have not arrested anybody. If they arrest the ministers, the people will be the one to say it's adjustment after Mbia this battle. Where are we going to? Now we are talking about line 65 that is there that they are asking for audit. There are opposition, vice chairman of a political party is there that he took 1,250 million. When they'll arrest him, they'll say it's because he's an opposition. We should build our nation. We should leave this ping pong. Like I heard my senior man Paddy saying that they are political prisoners. If we arrest people because of COVID, because of AFCON, you will say they are political criminal. No. And the case of Bazia Tanganakuna, he even talked about the law is clear. If you embezzle and you accept that you embezzle and you will refund, it's something else.
Is it we or you sure?
Champion, whereas my champion is there to do what is right. The collaborators that have not collaborated with him, that they have embezzled, they are in prison. My co-panelists one time asked me I should talk about cases that CONAC have done. I will just make two particular cases, and I know why I'm choosing just two particular cases. Do you know about the former city mayor that is of late?
Former city mayor
of Limbe.
I think
okay. Yeah. CONAC was behind him. Are you aware?
Yes. But
okay. I will also go to talk about a minister that is of late that was in secondary school. Are you aware that a minister on seat
that example
was convocated until
he died as a city delegate? He was never arrested, never called up.
All right.
So you can't use him as an example.
I know where you are driving to. Oh, your problem is Enam.
It is a peculiar case. We all know.
The school.
More than 70% of those who get access to Enam is through bribery and corruption.
But if you have the proof, you bring.
Am I CONAC? That's why I'm showing you.
I mean, give the proof to CONAC. That's why I am saying that.
Active.
That's why I'm saying that.
Not proactive.
We are supposed to work with CONAC. You have the information that they pay money. CONAC does not have.
They know.
Give the proof.
They have. They know.
Why do you think they know?
Okay.
If you know, you give the proof.
Okay.
If you sit behind and you say they know, you don't do anything, then you are a collaborator to corruption, and CONAC even is supposed to investigate you because you know and you didn't give the information. No. All of us, we have civic responsibility. It is our duty.
Okay.
It is in the constitution for us to collaborate with this institution.
It is in the constitution for us to collaborate. Now, how do we get the institutions themselves? Because we're talking about getting them work effectively. How do we get them, empower them to do more than what is expected?
These institutions are not supposed to be under the control of the presidency and the worst of it, the president. These are institutions who can only do their job effectively if they are given that opportunity to exercise and solve problems of Cameroonians. And the problems we have in Cameroon, where we talk about from bad roads to whatever state of the country, is coming from the fact that whatever is meant to manage the country with, a few have decided to pick it up. And what is the main cause? Nepotistic appointment, where we start appointing people on the basis of nepotism. When you allow people excessive crossing of the red line that you have in place, the government sits and folds its arm, and people do exactly whatever they want to do. Like we see the case today, like I mentioned, all what you call checkpoints in Cameroon are simply new toll gates, new banks, as I'll put it. I don't understand if they are the new treasuries we have accepted, because that is basically what they are doing. If you want to see this thing, pick up as an investigative journalist, move to these places with that secret camera that we know, like we will always have the issue of the BBC African Eye or whatever.
Fold your arms there as if you are passing. And tell me how many cars will go through that place that they will duly verify or check, be it from the passengers, whether they have their ID cards, or what exactly these cars are carrying. But the only thing you'll find very, 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 very present is the continuous collection of money between who and who. So you realize that these institutions cannot work not because they don't want to work. They are an institution which, if you go by its so-called decree of creation, you would see very fine things, very fine words, like people always quote, Cameroon have fine laws, is the issue of implementation. Who should implement it? When every other thing you are talking about, that law is given to one man. The president decides this, the president decides that, the president decides this, and so on and so forth.
We are in a semi-presidential system.
You understand? Reasons why we should denounce it, because it does not bring growth in a nation. And the worst of it is that we have a lot of people who take over positions in this country on nepotistic lines. They don't take over because they are that competent. They take over. When you hear my brother Tata keep talking about Bakah, Tata thing, keep talking about go to Enam, go to Enam. It is the birthplace of this high level of corruption. It is the birthplace. Why is it the birthplace? Because those who go to these places, they see themselves as people that you cannot judge. That's what they see themselves. You go to some of their offices, they exercise some authority which it gives you the impression that they are above the law. And we keep talking about referral cases. There are people who have referred certain cases to CONAC. But the big question is, CONAC will tell you they will come to investigate. What would they do? Now we are talking about 2 weeks of artificial scarcity. Whether there is shortages or not. I'm coming.
It's just a citizen that proposed 2 weeks.
No.
The government have not said anything.
No, you don't get it. The government did not say for the system that we have in place. That will not give them the power. And nothing can be done effectively. I am aware that in the case of corruption, you have to report it. Because bribery is just a part. It's one of the things being used to understand, to get this data or this fact on how corrupt a country is. Bribery is not the lone thing that is being used. And so for these institutions to work properly, yes, we have to report it. We have to report these things. But the question now is, when you report to an institution that will rely on the availability and the decision of a single person to execute your findings, you get tired. It's quite unfortunate that we give lots of billions CFA francs to these same institutions to manage themselves at the end of the year. And it's unfortunate that we have had several years, we have spent billions in running this institution, and they were unable to recover even a single 2 million CFA francs. But every year we hear their budget, billions of CFA francs. Yes, Malangfe, could you tell to me 5 years ago what CONAC did recover in this republic, like we heard the case of Bazia Atanganakuna, where it is reported that he has given part of the money, he will complete the other amount of the money which he embezzled.
Okay, let's move over to Paddy, Asanga Paddy. What, according to you, should be done for these institutions to be more performant or to be perceived by the population, the common man, as performing or working efficiently in their interest?
Yes, Leo, there is what we call individual responsibility, and there is what we call collective responsibility. And collective responsibility comes with education. The intentions were good, but individually they are not implemented. And I will cite here an anecdote. In 2013, I was driving to Bamenda with my whole family, my brothers, my stepbrothers, and so on. You know, I come from a polygamous home, which I'm very proud of. And I will say to anybody, I'm also a polygamist. And we went to somewhere at Sancho. We came to what G. Lucas is talking about, what you call checkpoints. What I discovered was that there was something fishy about that checkpoint. And at that checkpoint, we had somebody who had something written on his security control or control routier or something like that, road safety. But when I looked at that control, there were just 2 gendarmes and that guy who had that thing that is written road safety control or something like that. So, and I am one of those people who is very stubborn. I have my documents and the car was registered and so on. They started controlling the car, and at a certain point, they said I did not have in my first aid box, I did not have plasters, and so on and so forth. Because I was very stubborn. I refused that. I was not going to give anybody anything. And all my brothers who were sitting with me, we were traveling from Douala. We went through Sancho. I was the one on the steering, and the man said, "Okay." He took my document and said, I have to comply. I said, what do you mean by comply? He said he was going to, I was going to pay 25,000 francs. If I don't pay 25,000 francs, then he was going to impound my car. I said, okay, I'm ready to pay the 25,000 francs, but give me the receipt. So he said, I'm not the one to tell him his job. And then he came out and wrote it that they don't have receipt right now, but I can come the next day at the gendarmerie post and collect my receipt. I said, that nonsense was not going to happen with me. Do you know what I did? I turned around my car and blocked the road. They could not control any other person. All my brothers were telling me, oh, Grandpa, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Let's go, let's go. I said, I'm not begging anybody. I know my rights. If I don't have a plaster in that thing, in that first aid box, you cannot ask me 25,000 francs. And by the way, there is no guarantee that, and nothing tells you that I'm going to have an accident, because you controlled, you saw everything, saw the first aid box, saw the what you call the license of the car, and it approbation to circulate the technical documents of the car, and then you start asking me money. And in that situation, I was going to Bamenda, and I decided in that moment that I will not let it go. I will go to it. That's the sacrifices that Cameroonians should be doing. That when you discover that you are right, and you know your rights, you know what is right, you don't let it go. No matter if there is nobody dead, if you are not a medical doctor that is going to rescue somebody, don't give in to those people. Don't give in. That is it. And then you empower those people. You know how the whole thing turned around? When I blocked the road, I took the car also and left. I took the keys and left. So the guy now came back and called me and said, let's discuss. When I came to discuss with him, I removed the car. Instead of giving me my documents, he took a bike and was running away with my car, with the documents that the documents of the car. I entered the car, followed him, and we navigated in Sancho until I took him to the gendarmerie. I finally found where he was going to, because the bike man could not, also at a certain point, I could not chase him with the car because he was navigating through in the quarters. So I took a bike also and went after him until I took that guy and we went to the gendarmerie, and I made a complaint against him, just to discover that he was also an Anglophone. So we have to get this collective denunciation and that individual conviction that I, as a person, faced with a situation like that, this is my civic duty, so that it doesn't happen to the next person. That's how you fight against corruption. So these institutions, intentions are good, but as I keep saying, if the person who is who created the institution, because a decree can also shadow another decree, if he doesn't respect it, the next person will come and make another decree and another decree and another decree. So where are we? So those things should be constitutional, and something that is constitutional has executive power. It can be implemented. it can be enforced. But if it depends on the will of some person, of one man, whom I call the Jacobine of Itudi, then it is a toothless bulldog. And that's where we find ourselves, Mr. Liu. I'm listening to you.
Bakah Derrick from Bamenda. Paddy just raised an issue of our respective, or collective responsibilities at our respective corners. We ought to shun this vice and withstand or challenge them. But at times when you stand to fight against this vice, you have persons around you who would urge you to make sure that you provide what is requested from you, either by officials in offices or uniform personnel, and you find yourself at times embarrassed.
Against this vice, you have persons around you who would urge you to make sure that you provide what is requested from you, either by officials in offices or uniform personnel, and you.
Derrick, did you get my question?
Have raised the issue of denunciation, which is very, very fundamental in this. In this battle. If we must win this battle, denunciation is key. And Leonard, you agree with me that one of the closest sources to denounce information relating to corruption in our communities is the media. I talked about that before, and I want to sustain that conversation right up to the end, because I made mention of the fact that journalists should be investigated. Honestly, in being an investigative journalist doesn't just happen. Let me just share with you that some of the major things that undermine battle against corruption in many countries, including ours, is first of all this element of denunciation. How many people do denounce? Imagine that you walk into a public school and you're looking for admission for your child, and they are asked you to pay some money that is unjustifiable, away from the tuition fee and other things, including the PTA that has become very official right now, and you do not let someone know about this. Remember, you remain an accomplice and a participant, and you stay there. One of the easiest people to make them know this is a journalist. Now you're giving this information to a journalist who in turn has to interrogate such people in such offices. It could be the head teacher, it could be the principal, it could be the delegate for education, elementary education or secondary education, whatever. It's the same thing our brother was talking about, the entrance into the administrative school, that's ENAM, that we all know. This must be denounced to someone, and possibly a journalist who can eventually get into serious work to establish the veracity of such complaints, so these people can be held accountable. Now, that could be part one of it. But do you also know that it becomes very difficult sometimes for journalists? I'm talking to someone who talked about investigative journalists. You work for some news organization whose owners are business mogul, they are politicians, they are people in high political offices. And then you gather this data sometimes. First, you don't have the equipment to do that. They won't allow you to give you a budget to do such an assignment. And secondly, you will definitely end up in a situation where you have nowhere to even broadcast this content. You see how complicated the road is. But as I was suggesting before, there are intentional efforts that can be made to ease this battle for us. People can only denounce this thing to the press when they themselves trust the press. How does the press become trusted in our circle and in our institutions? If the people are sufficiently educated that we have legislation in place that empowers journalists to ask public officials information and get it, that is the information, possibly the right to or the freedom of information documentation, which some countries prefer to call the Information Act. These are things that help the journalists do their work with relative ease. Because you know that if somebody denounces something to you, you have a right to walk to a police station and ask the brigade commander, please, can I have the names of officer A or B or C who was on duty at this time in so and so place, because we have this incriminating information about such and such a person. He is obliged to do so should in case we have backing legislation to support such efforts.
you know. But in a country like ours, when intentionally freedom of expression doesn't thrive really much, you know, it becomes very difficult. And so every other effort that we make in an attempt to fight corruption only becomes a waste of time. Because after all, the person says, how would the people know? How would the people know? You even tell someone in his office, like brother talked about, asking someone whether I hear that you sell a bottle of gas for 15,000. We're in a setup where just introducing yourself to someone that you're from Konak already inspires the person you're introducing yourself to want to give you a bribe. You know, this is where we are. And once you receive the bribe, you stay quiet. The person who is supposed to denounce such a thing is a person who has come to board, who is an ordinary citizen, who has a friend in the neighborhood, who surely is a journalist, or knows a contact to a radio station, and can communicate to say that this is an issue which I have at hand. But now, the last part of it, Leonard, which I want to conclude, is that journalists in our environment and many other places in the world actually have difficulties doing this work. Don't forget that last year, the International Federation of Journalists indicated that we had lost well over 47 journalists around the world who were killed because of their job. Now, we also have the International Press Institute that I talked about slightly close to 100 or so. Then we had the International Committee to Protect Journalists that talked about 45 journalists. Do you think they just died for entertainment? No, they died because they were doing their job, and over 75% of some of these jobs are corruption related. So what am I saying in effect? What I'm saying is that if we are intentional about fighting corruption, that everybody, including the lowest appointed official of state and the private service as well, because the private sector is not free, you know, of this corruption menace, what will happen is that we must sufficiently empower our press, put in place the right legislative implementation, put in place the right legislative documents that give the right to the press to do appropriate work, because this also inspires people of the public to be able to confide to journalists, please, this information I have, can you work on this? This information I have, can you work on this? And in that way, we can be able to have a step forward.
Thank you very much, Bakah Derrick, for your brilliant contribution from Bamenda, Northwest Regional Capital. We're going to be taking our last round here in the studio on the things that we expect the population to do, to denounce, because if we see these institutions are not living up to the expectations, but what should the population also do to help fight this vice?
Well, we can only continue to encourage the population to collaborate, as our panelists did say, though we know that it's quite a very complicated setup, because at the end of the day, even if you want to call, is there a toll-free number from Konak where people can call and complain on corruption cases? And also, sometimes the masses, the population do need these services, and they themselves, they do practice this corrupt acts, so you won't expect someone practicing and at the same time denouncing. This, I think, is a morality problem which we should fight against as patriotic citizens. We can only wish that someday we have a government that is open, is tolerant, and people can get to do the right thing without thinking twice.
Okay. Yes. What should the population do to help fight this fight?
There are many ways to denounce.
Okay.
There are some that they go ahead with their phone, they do a video, and they even send it in public. We've seen many people that have been arrested and they have lost their job just because of a simple video of corruption that was done by people, and the people were arrested. You have also another way by having eyewitnesses that will go with you so they can testify that it was actually done. And I would like to create the indulgence of the people of Cameroon, especially those of Kumba and those of Bamenda, that if this program have actually gone through them and they have learned something from it, please, they should not buy a bottle of gas for 15,000, but they should denounce with the bodies that be, so that they should not be exploited. And most importantly, Mr. Liu, most of my co-panelists keep on saying that there is one man, there is one man, there is one man. That is not the issue. We are in a semi-presidential system, and the president have the power to with his decree, to appoint those that he's appointing. When they say CONAC is an independent body, when they say ELECAM is an independent body, yes, they are independent, but they are in a republic, and a republic has a head of state that will definitely look how things are going. We should not get confused with head of state and head of government, and how institutions function in a republic, in a semi-presidential system. Other countries, you can talk about the maybe presidential system, semi or parliamentary system, but as in Cameroon, the head of state, president of the republic, have that power to appoint. And when the people don't keep up to expectation, they will definitely be called to the powers that be. And there is one thing also I want to also say, which it is clear. The CONAC institution should ensure that most of the workers that they are employing are not corrupt. We should be very clear with this point. The institution should be very clear. Mercy, who is a reverend, should also ensure that the people he's bringing in that institution should be people of good morality. That if I am calling CONAC to say I had a meeting with the DO, and this is what actually happened, and the DO should be investigated, he will not go and tell the DO that this man called me, gave the information to risk my life. So they should ensure that they are people of good morality, and most importantly, citizens should know that they have it is a civic responsibility and a duty for them to denounce. It's non-negotiable. If you don't stand up for your right, then your right will be matched, and you will be the first to complain, and they'll accuse my champion for nothing that is doing a good job to serve the nation.
Okay. The population is also helpless. Many of them have written that at times when you go reporting, especially the cases of our uniformed men, it may not amount to anything. But who actually does not know that these guys are there collecting money?
That is the exact question we should be asking ourselves and getting answers from ourselves. It is no news when some of the police boss will commission some of his elements and tell them to come with 10,000. Are they going to the street to pick that? No, for an example, it is no news.
I do not know.
You understand? Now, you look at the text Paddy Asanga said on TV. Now, you realize that the officer was now handling it the way he wants, or the way he wanted. It was not in accordance with the law. That's why the guy could just jump on a bike, and they were running and they were moving into the different quarters. He has narrated that. So, some of these guys do not even know the do no harm policy or system in place. If you go to them with an anonymous ID, they would still want to place some of these things on the table. And they are not the ones now helping us. I think for once Malangfe said something that was good. That CONAC should try to ensure that the IDs of those who come to report these cases should be kept. Notwithstanding, they should not bring in corrupt officials. I buy into that. Yes, I buy into that. One other very good point which we have to take over is that we should first of all let the people know that what they are going in for is their right. If I am moving into the office of the governor, and I know that within the Republic of Cameroon, it is my civic rights, constitutional one for that matter, for him to grant an audience to me. And I get there and I'm asked to put something, as they always say, on the table before I go about it. If I am moving to report that case to CONAC, they should not think that because the governor is related to AB.
C'est ce style-là. Wow. Et ce style-là aussi. Black brille dans tout.
Okay, Paddy Asanga, we're going to be ending with you and Bakah, Derrick in Bamenda. Paddy, certainly you have one last word for both the government and the population of Cameroon.
Yes, put against that fight. We put that fight against corruption. If you want to depend on CONACT and all those things, it's not going to work, because for me, and I will say it, I don't hide it from anybody, I think CONACT and NIF and Consupe, all these laudable institutions, they are political tools, because you understand that some people who go and embezzle money, you go to the commissariat or somebody steals a goat, they put him in prison for 5 years. Somebody steals millions and monies that can be used to build hospital. In the next 3 years, he's out working there, drinking champagne and making a mockery of Cameroon. So I'm very, very happy with you, Leo. I'm happy with your promoter of my Major Prime. I want to encourage you people. And we are going to meet very soon. But I would like to talk to Bakah Derrick when we finish. And bro, Mashfire, you have a voice to say, and you are welcome. I'm very pleased about you. For my friend Kedia, join us so that we work together and build the Third Republic, which is not controlled by one strong man, but it is controlled by a strong institution. That's what we are saying. Thank you, and thank you very much.
Okay, Paddy Asanga, Bakah Derrick is in our forum, Prime forum, so I'm sure his number is there. But Bakah Derrick, since Paddy Asanga says he wants to get in touch with you, we all are in the forum. You can just get through to him within the forum. Bakah, your last words, please.
Well, you know that me and you share plenty of opportunities in matters of promotion of human rights and promotion of the rights, freedom of expression, and by extension, freedom of press. I personally think that it is a fundamental element in the fight against corruption. And as people, we must advocate very strongly for the promotion of freedom of expression and freedom of the press. These are very key tools that we so value in this platform. I want to honestly thank you to see that Paddy political act are potentially available. For the politicians, other time that are really very strong institutional issues to talk about that can help us move forward. I want to thank you immensely and to thank you again, Kum, for giving us this platform. Let's discuss on this more. I think that Cameroon is at the verge. It's a time we cannot be promoting our democracy without discussing the need for an information act in this country. We need a Freedom of Information Act in Cameroon, and that is the responsibility of Parliament. We must open ourselves to our parliamentarians to make sure that this discourse goes a little further, and we are able to settle that. Let the press accompany us in building strong democratic institutions in the fight against corruption, and why not, in helping this country move forward. Thank you very much, and to all our viewers, those who took up their time, families and friends, thank you very much for being there. We are particularly humbled that you sat throughout this conversation. Thank you very much, Kum.
Thank you very much, Bakah, Derrick, and want to say, Mr. Tata, thank you for coming.
My pleasure. It was a wonderful program.
Okay, and also to you, thank you for coming.
Thank you. It's a pleasure for me to be here and participate, and I believe that the people have gotten our advice, and the head of states too have followed the program, and believe that things will change progressively.
We also say thank you to you, coming all the way from Boya, Southwest Regional Capital, and G. Lucas.
Thank you very much, especially to Mr. Tata. I think it's a wonderful time spent together. I want to appreciate particularly the people of my community and Boya generally, to let them understand that we are in a very difficult moment, but we should not give up. I want to thank the people of my 16 for their bravery. I think if you look around, they are doing their best to ensure that the economy of the area is not giving up, because that is the only thing that they will use to send their children to school, to promote education, and also to let the people understand that if we are promoting education today, if the people in that area are talking about education today, it is because
we did quite a good job to sensitize the people on the need of education. It is the people's right, and we must promote it.
We want to thank all of you who took time off to watch this edition of Prime Hour, especially to the production team, Eli, Desmond, and also to you, Tabi, Tambe, Bryant, who is supervising the work we do out here. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.